Welcome everybody to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I'm super duper excited to introduce our guest. His name is Stopher Cavins. He is a psychic medium, and he's using his gift, although he says that it's not really a gift, correct?
That is right.
But he's using his talent and his motivating skills as a medium, as a psychic medium to help people. So welcome to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Tell our listeners what a psychic medium is.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Lino. Thanks for having me on your show. This is really cool. So, and I knew you were going to say all of that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah, right. No, that's not how it works. But oh, cool. Yeah. So I just want to hit real quick. So yeah, I don't call it a gift because it's an ability. I mean, I guess it is in the way that like your eyesight is a gift. But yeah, it's an ability we all have. So we can definitely talk about what that looks like. But yeah, so what was the question again?
Yeah, so what is a psychic medium?
Okay, yeah, so basically I bring forth messages and healing and guidance to people through messages I get from either connecting with people's energy or connecting with their loved ones on the other side. So I just basically I'm a vessel that I've developed this ability so that I can use my intuition to bring forth messages that you or a person that I'm reading for may not have the ability to kind of look inward or to see for themselves, if that makes sense.
So when you get these messages, Stopher, are they like, do you feel like do you get symbols? Like, do you close your eyes? Do you see things, or do you feel things? Do you hear things, or all of the above?
All of the above. It's like it can be a full body experience, and sometimes it comes like certain ways, and sometimes it's a mixture. But it's like nudges sometimes I feel I hear words that I'll kind of like think into and translate what that means. I might see a flash of somebody doing something. Sometimes I'll feel like literal, like physical something. That like might lead me to like think like, oh, is there a tattoo on your arm? I'm feeling something on the left arm,
Oh, wow.
So there's moments like that. So it's a little bit of everything, really. Almost everybody that identifies themselves, as a psychic or a medium, it works differently for them. But that's just how it works for me.
How did you discover that you had this ability?
It's something that I've always kind of had to a degree, to a very much like lesser degree. I've always been a bit empathic. So if somebody walks into the room with, regardless if it's like up energy or down energy or whatever it is, I tend to take on that energy and it affects me to the point where I'll usually do something to kind of counteract it. So whatever it is, I'll usually like act the opposite or try to bring it, to even it out. So I've always had that going on, but a few years ago, it was kind of the spiritual awakening happened for me, and I started meditating and I started kind of looking into like crystals and oracle cards and stuff like that. So that's kind of where it started developing, and I realized this was the path, to develop this was the path for me. It was a spiritual path.
So the crystals and what else what started bringing you to the path?
Yeah, so it was like just like meditation. I started reading books about quieting ego, things like that. So once I started like really like getting my mind right and quieting my own ego and my own thoughts, I started feeling things. I started like feeling the energy of the world, basically. And then from there, I could kind of learn how to, translate that.
And how did you actually discover you had this ability? When did you have that awe moment?
It's interesting. A couple years ago, I had a friend of like past 18 years. I met him in 2001, I think. In 2000, and like I say, I've known him for 18 years. In 2020, he called me up and said, "Hey, I want you to look at this Facebook page I made. I'm starting a business. I think you know this about me, but we really haven't talked about it before. And so it was a spirit mediumship business, and he's a super, super talented spirit medium, and just super tuned in. So I was like, yeah, let me help you. Because I'm a marketer. My day job is that I'm a marketer. And so I started helping him, build a website and kind of put some of his marketing in place. I was doing blogging for him. So in the process of that, I started like doing my own research about like, crystals, and, he said he worked with oracle cards, which I had never heard of that. I'd heard of tarot cards because my auntie, who's in spirit now, she was a tarot card reader. Um, so, I just started looking into it, and I was doing blogs about meditation. So I figured, hey, I guess I should like probably try some of this, right? I should be doing what I'm writing about. So in the process of all that, it just took a hold of me. And I started just realizing that not only was I like feeling things, but it was really making my life better, to be honest. Just like centering me and
Right.
letting
Yeah.
go of like pain and trauma and like anger. Because I definitely had that like angry white man thing going on for like my first like 20, 30 years of adulthood, So yeah, it just felt right. And then from there, I realized that I could use this gift and this ability to help people and heal people. So that was what became really important to me.
And so you started with oracle cards?
Yeah, so I got my own deck of oracle cards, and I really just
What's
fell
the
in love with it.
difference between tarot and oracle? Because I don't think I know. I mean, I don't know the difference. If I don't, I'm sure a lot of the listeners.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the super like basic, um, thought of that. So tarot is like a system, and every deck for the most part has the exact 78 cards, same cards, like your King of Cups and your Tower and all that, the Fool. They all have like the same cards. The design and interpretation of them will be different, but they all have the same structure. And for the most part, the meanings are very similar. So you really have to know a lot. Like you have to learn, it's kind of like astrology almost. You have to learn what each thing represents.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Oracle cards are more of like I just call it an intuitive cue card. It's a little more free form. So, the meanings are basically whatever you make of them or whatever the author kind of intends. And they're like based on different themes. There's some based on crystals, some based on like moon phases, and there's some just like general, so I read those because I can really read them intuitively.
Oh, nice. So you have a
Yeah.
more of a connection, a deeper connection with the oracle cards versus the tarot cards.
Yeah, because I just totally and if I read tarot, I'm reading them intuitively based on the picture. Like I really have no clue for the most part of what the meaning, the dedicated meanings are of the cards. But I can read the cards, I can read the cards intuitively. But I'm really looking at the picture, and I'm looking at the colors and the numbers and the words on them. And then it just kind of lets me know what message is there. And then I just kind of start reading into it.
And so when you have clients and you're doing the whole psychic medium interaction with your clients, are you using the oracle cards or is this separate?
Usually no, for the most part. Sometimes I might pull like a card or two, unless they specifically ask for a spread.
Mhm.
Then I might do like a short, like past, present, future spread, like a 3-card spread. But for the most part, I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm interacting with their energy and connecting with them on a spiritual level, and then just kind of feeling what comes through. And they'll tell me a lot, tell me like maybe some things that they've gone through, things that they are going through, people they're dealing with, opportunities with jobs. Sometimes I can even like tell them exactly what kind of job they do. That's kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, like the other day I had a sitter, and she was asking about her job, and I was like, wait, let me feel into like what you're doing. And I was like, feels like is it medical records, or are you like a medical record keeper? And it happened to be like exactly what she did. And I can't explain what I was feeling. I just felt like I wanted to go like do medical records. It was really weird, but it never ceases to amaze me when I can feel those things and then interpret them correctly, and then they happen to be spot on.
And so whenever they're spot on, does it motivate you to, I mean, I would assume it's motivating.
Yeah,
I guess what
like I
kind of
said,
joy do you get from helping people with what your ability?
Yeah, and kind of going back to like when things like are like really specific and spot on, that's nice. It's
Mhm.
nice to like wow people, but for me, the reason it's nice is because it gives them evidence, right? It gives them evidence to know that I'm not just making this stuff up, that I'm actually connected, right? Because how
Mhm.
else would I know this type of information? So because, you know, telling somebody what they do for a job isn't necessarily a healing message, right?
Right.
But when
It
we get to
opens up
that,
the doors.
yeah, it definitely opens up the doors when we get to that healing message and something they need to hear. They're more invested and connected because they realize, oh, hey, he's really connected with me. He's really like reading my energy.
Mhm.
So whatever advice or information comes forward is meant for me. Um, so that's really what's satisfying for me is the fact that I can give them something that's going to help them ultimately. I mean, there's of course an entertainment level to it of, this is fun and interesting,
Right.
but at the end of the day, if somebody's really willing to get a lot out of the reading, and they can kind of take it as guidance and some sort of clarity, confirmation, then that's really, at the end of the day, I've done my job.
How much validity is there in palm reading?
That's something I don't know about,
Uh,
so I would assume that it's very similar to what I do, in the way that if you believe in it and if you're connected to it and you're invested in it, then it's what you make of it, right?
right.
Because I'm sure I've read for people that kind of find what I do as a bit of a novelty, and they just want me to like wow them with, what do you know about me? Do you know what I'm thinking? Do you know the name of my dog? And that's fine and great. And sometimes I can bring that information through, but at the end of the day, they're not really getting anything out of it, right? Other than
Right.
maybe some entertainment or to, try to stifle me and say like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, so palm reading, astrology, it's all like what you really put into it, how much of your heart you're opening and putting into it.
Yeah. So in order for you to be able to open up those doors, does the person on the receiving end also have to be open, or are you able to go past their blocks?
Um, for the most part, if they're open, that's really going to make for a great reading. If they have blocks, it can be a problem. What I run into sometimes is when people, it comes up especially in relationship readings, when somebody's got like a relationship thing going on and they want answers. And sometimes they come to the reading with wanting to hear what they want to hear, right? Or having some kind of expectation. And I don't sugarcoat things. If I feel something, I'm going to let you know what it is, to a degree. I mean,
Mhm.
there's ethics behind, stuff too. But,
Right, right.
but if your man or your woman don't like you anymore, they moved on, I'm going to, in a very like positive way, or, I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but I'm going to let you know,
Mhm.
um, that, hey, maybe there's another path for you in this
Right.
relationship. But if it's something you don't want to hear, it's not what you expected, then in those situations, it's difficult.
I can imagine.
So yeah, I've had situations where that kind of that thing has come up, and I can only tell you what I feel and what I know. I'm not going to make anything up. I'm not going to change based on what I think you want to hear. It's not what I do.
Have any of your interactions ever been super contemplative, if that's the right question? Have you ever like gone to bed and just keep thinking about what happened? Like, has it ever gone with you all the way to like, to your bed, to your nighttime sleepy time? Or
Yeah.
or do you clear it off as soon as you're done with someone? Because
So
when I used to
luckily,
do therapy with patients, there would be some patients where the stories would stick with me, and I'd be like, wow, I can't believe this happened, or I can't believe I felt this, or I can't believe this. Does that ever happen to you, or do you just kind of just let's sage the room and close the chapter, close the day?
yeah, I've always had this superpower, like throughout my whole life, of being able to shut things off.
Oh, that
And
is
it's
a
a it's a
superpower.
blessing. Yeah,
It
it's a
is. It
blessing and a
really is.
curse. Like when I come home from work, what, I have a job? Like
Yeah.
I just forget about it. It's like, even when me and my husband, we rarely talk about my work. A little bit here and there, but it's nothing that I bring with me really. So I'm able to do that in what I do, and I'm really like thankful for that, because I know a lot of other intuitives and empathic people that don't have as easy of a time of cutting it off.
Right.
And it does take a lot of energy. So I mean, to a degree, like after reading, I'll appreciate what happened, or I'll kind of decompress it in my mind and have that little conversation in my mind about what happened. But yeah, once I leave this room, or the room that I'm reading in, I tend to, cut it off. Like I specifically do set an intention to cut that connection, and and that way that I'm clear for the next reading as well, whether it's in 30 minutes or 2 days from now.
Oh yeah, right.
So yeah, and then I sage before every single reading. I set intentions. I turn on that sign in my mind of, okay, I'm open. And then when I'm done, I turn that sign off.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see the bright lights when it's on and when it's off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you have to, but yeah, it's something I've been blessed with, is the ability to kind of just leave it.
And having this ability, is it ever attracted other people with like minds? Like, hey, like I do that too, or hey, or do you guys? And if you ever meet, well, answer that question first.
Yeah, it's funny because once you start opening up these like different parts of your
Yeah.
soul and spirit, and giving more and receiving more, energy and love and all that stuff, you do get attracted to people that have a similar thing going on. I've even been attracted to people that I believe I was connected to in a past life.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
So you just it's like a magnet. It really is. And I'm thankful for that, because it just helps me connect even more. And it's because I just love giving and receiving love. So um it's a good situation.
Yeah, it's a really good situation. Do you ever get messages and not know where they're coming from, whether they're directed to you or to somebody else that you just read? And are you able to redirect those messages?
I have, to a degree. Like I say, when the sign's not on in my mind, when that sign is not on, I'm pretty good about just being off.
Hmm.
But there was a time I was at a concert in Houston, seeing a band called Mana, and there was a young girl standing next to me, and I believe it was her brother in spirit wanted me to say something to her, and of course I did not. I was almost called to, but I was like, this is not the time.
You're like, I'm at a concert. I'm singing
Yeah,
along.
yeah, she was having a good time with her friends, and I'm not gonna. They call it like a drive-by reading. Like yeah, so I'm not gonna do drive-by mediumship. But yeah, that was one of the times when this cat was calling me to, like, for like 10 minutes straight. I'm just having this conversation with the spirit. Like, I can't do this right now. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not your guy right now. But he saw an opportunity. That spirit saw an opportunity, and they'll do that sometimes. But for the most part, no. I guess the short answer is no.
Hmm. And what about
But
in dreams?
no, I don't have a lot of dreams, oddly enough.
Wow.
My dreams are really weird. They're just like the most monotonous, silly things.
Hmm. So now that you have this like understanding of the ability that you have, has your perspective or your thoughts about dying changed before you figured out that you had this ability, or has it remained the same?
Yeah, it really has, because before I kind of opened up, I don't know that I was like afraid of death, but it was definitely something that I didn't really like enjoy, like, not that I enjoy now, but that I really liked thinking about,
Mhm.
because there was like a lot of unknown factor, and I'm such a curious person anyway. So if I can't figure it out, I tend to try not to think about it. Um, but yeah, it's really just opened me up to know that there is, I don't know exactly what it is, but there is definitely like life and happiness, and you're able to see like your family that's still here. You're able to kind of like participate in a degree.
Mhm.
And I know that's true because I communicate with people that are in that realm, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I read a book called The Untethered Soul, that is all about like disconnecting your ego, and really just like finding balance. And there's, I think one of the last chapters was on death, and I literally like read it 3 times, because it just put things in such a great perspective. So anybody listening or watching wants to read that book. I think it's by Michael Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul. It's like a staple for like spiritual, journeys.
Wow, that's
But
incredible.
yeah, I'm much more comfortable with it because it's one thing that book said that really just like stuck with me is that death gives life value. Without death, life is not valuable.
That's true.
Yeah, because it just goes on and on and on. We don't have it, we don't have to like, worry about, doing something before we're gone. So, you know, to
Right.
know that tomorrow's not promised is what makes us tell our loved ones that we love them and that and do things that that are on our bucket list, right?
Have you been able to connect with any of your past loved ones?
Yeah, so a lot of them. I actually have like a better relationship with some of them, like my auntie and my cousin who's in spirit, and my great grandfather that passed away before I was born.
Wow.
So I have a really good relationship with them in spirit. My auntie, who she was an intuitive as well, and she would read tarot cards. She passed away in 2014, I believe, and she was about my age when she passed away. She's not too much
Oh,
older than me, but she's actually one of my guides, and she's always with me. And when I'm pulling cards, and I ask her which cards are for my sitter, and she tells me which cards to pull.
wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, she'll give me a number, and then I pull that. I pull out that number of cards, and then the next card is the card that's supposed to be for my sitter. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's not random at all. Like I have somebody guiding me, and it's my auntie.
I can see that how you can feel if it was somebody you knew, but what about like you mentioned your great grandfather who you never met? Like, how did you know it was him, and how do you feel him?
Well, I see him, so I see him, and I know he's with my great grandmother who I did meet.
Mhm.
My great
Meaning
grandmother
like
Alma.
actual images of him, like his spirit. Like, oh shoot, like a quick glance, there he is.
Yeah, I'll see it, and I can tell that he's smoking a pipe, which I know he did when he was here, and I know he's with my grandma Alma. So it's funny, a funny story, real quick. When I was about 3, I guess I used to tell my grandmother, so this would be her father, and then my mother, when they would talk about him, I would say, "Oh yeah, I know him," or "Grandpa, yeah." And they would say, "No, sweetie, he passed away like a few years before you were born." And I would say, "No, I knew him in heaven." And I would
Wow,
describe him.
that's
I would
that's
like
amazing. That's
describe I
incredible.
would describe him in detail. I don't remember doing this, but I hear stories, and they said it was to the point where like it would freak them out a little bit. So I do believe that I knew him before.
Speaking of freaked out, do you ever get freaked out with
Yeah,
the
I don't
whole
know if
other
it's
world stuff? Do you
yeah,
ever
I don't
get
know
the
if it's
heebie-jeebies or however they say it?
no, like even when I don't recognize, sometimes I'll feel spirit in the house here, and if I don't recognize it, I just assume that it's like stuck or something. And maybe I brought it in with an item that I brought in or something. So I'll just actually go stand in it and I'll talk to it.
Yeah, what would you say to it?
I would just say, I'll just feel it. And it's always, I mean, it's never harmful. It's never been harmful. So I'll just say, you know, hey, you're welcome to go. Is there anything I can help you with? Thank you for being here, but you can go ahead and go now. I release your energy to leave the space. Because if it's not here for anything, it's not doing me any good, and it's not doing
Right. That's really nice,
the
actually. That's
energy.
very
Yeah,
respectful.
so just know, anybody listening, if you have something in your house, you have power over it.
True.
Yeah, you can just sage it, you can just talk to it, kind of, I enjoy the energy. I can feel the vibration, so I just invite it to leave.
And what happens? Do they leave immediately or do they linger?
Yeah, pretty much. So over here in the corner, this happened a few months ago. I actually wrote a blog about it. I think it was actually my father. It felt like my father. But he was just standing in the corner, and I realized his energy was there because he could see into my bedroom. So I think he was protecting and watching over me without getting too close, right?
Mhm.
To where I was sleeping. So I told him thank you, and I kind of hung out with him for a little bit, and just let him know that he could leave, that I was good, that I was protected, and yeah, I haven't felt it there since.
What about people who have experienced like paranormal stuff in their houses that are say the house is haunted with like bad omens and stuff? I mean, I can imagine that that's just as real as you being peaceful, you having peaceful experiences.
Right.
Like, has anybody ever contacted you to do like a mediumship at like a quote unquote haunted house to tell those spirits that shouldn't be there to be gone?
Yeah, I get contacted a lot by people that feel like they either have some kind of haunting on like on their person or in their spirit, I guess,
Yeah.
or in their house. Um, so it's a little out of what I do, to be honest, and I let them know that up front. I'll try to find them like a reference because I do have friends that's a little more in their wheelhouse. Um, but I'll try to feel into it sometimes and see what I feel. My sister contacted me a few days ago and said there was an item in her house that kept moving, and
Hmm.
she said it was just this one item. So I kind of felt into it. I got a little information about it, but you know, for the most part, to make that leave, to make if she wanted that spirit or that energy to leave, that was something I couldn't do for her. So,
Hmm.
but I kind of gave her a little information about what I was feeling about that energy. You know.
Wow. Awesome. So where do you plan to be with this mediumship? Do you plan to expand your abilities?
Yeah. So I really leave that up to spirit to kind of guide me. So since this has started a little over a year ago, um, I've gone, I've done a lot, right? So I went from not knowing what an oracle card was to now it's part of my everyday life, and I have a website. I have an active business that I do on the side of my office job. Um, I blog about it. I've gone from just doing like psychic work. Now mediumship has opened up for me. I run a practice circle online on Zoom every Wednesday where, you know, other people, other mediums come to practice with me. So I'm just like letting spirit tell me what's next. I've kind of dabbled into learning about like Akashic record reading, pet mediumship, which is kind of comes through every now and
Yeah.
again in the reading. So um, that to me is also, I feel like spirit's telling me that this is a path as well to kind of
Nice.
work on this. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. But ultimately, like on a personal level, I would love to write a book. So I think this kind of connection for me has really opened up those possibilities, and that like rejuvenated that energy in me to want to write a book. And it's given me a lot of different things to write about, of course.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, one more question. I guess I'm wondering if something about, oh my goodness, my one question, I guess I forgot. I'm always so quick to throw in all the questions, but it had to do with the evolving. But it sounds like you're
Make
on
something
your,
up.
yeah, it sounds like you're on the path to evolving your abilities, which is awesome. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's really an important part of the journey
It is. Yeah.
because spirit wants us to kind of, we're never meant to be where we're at, right? There's always like a place where we're fated to be, and this is just the journey to get there. So um, I'm glad that after like, this journey kind of took place in my 40, I think I was like 42. I'm 44 now. So, in my first 42 years, it was always me driving the conversation or the journey. I thought
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this, and it never worked out right. It never just felt right. And so now I'm a little bit more like hands off the wheel, spirit, what you got. And if I listen, they'll show me, right? Spirit will
Yeah.
show me. And I just go with it, and it always worked. It seems like it's uncanny how easily things fall into place.
Yeah, because you let go of the resistance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember my question. So we all have a higher self. There's like the higher self, and you could say the ego is like the I, or however you are
Mhm.
saying that you let go of the wheel.
Yeah.
Could you feel your higher self, or do you feel more like you're aligned with your higher self, or do you ever hear your higher self and be like, "Oh, that's my higher self," or is your higher self spirit?
Yeah, so I believe higher self is my spiritual me, right? It's not my, they call it the meat suit or the the human flesh, right? It's so weird, meat suit.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man.
edit that out. No.
Oh my goodness.
um, so the higher self, yeah, is like your spirit. That's like who you really, really are. And when you do things that kind of feed that's when you're aligned, right?
Right.
So when you're doing things for your higher self and the true you, um, which is anything that really has to do with like love and happiness and doing things for
Joy.
others and connecting
Yeah.
with spirit. That's when you're lined up and things really get easy and yeah. So I do hear myself. Might hear my inner thoughts, and I still hear that ego that I have to check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my ego has always been super active. That voice in my head is like so active, and it has a lot to do with things I went through when I was younger. But the more I quiet it, I'm constantly like recalibrating and quieting that ego so that I can really get to the root of what I really want and what I really need and how I can help others.
What spirit wants with
Yeah,
you.
what spirit? Yeah, so that's that's who needs to be driving, not my you know my trauma and abandonment and all that, like all
Right.
my
The
protection
narrative.
mechanisms. Yeah.
Well, Stopher Cavins is psychic medium, and he is at Stopher Cavins 77, linktr.ee, linktree / my fated life, myfatedlife. How else can our viewers find you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, I do. So I'm actually in the process of like switching everything over. So I hope this doesn't get too confusing. I'm sure you'll put links in wherever. But
Yes.
so my Instagram right now is Psychic Stopher.
Okay.
I believe that's my Facebook business page as well. And then my website is myfatedlife.com, but I'm going to be switching over to stophercavins.com as well.
Stophercavins.com. Thanks for being on a Little Less Fear podcast. Keep
Of course.
helping people. This is awesome. It motivates me, and I really want to tap into spirit and see what's going on and where I'm going.
You got it, my friend. I can feel it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, and you have a blessed weekend.
You too, my friend. Thank
All
you
right,
so
we'll
much
talk
for having me
soon.
on.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.